A wonderful good morning, dear LinkedIn and Composites community. So this time of the day, we're speaking in English. I have with me today Thomas from Gunnar, and I have here
Morning.
Markus from Airborne, a very interesting name that I will touch on later again. Yeah, Thomas, please introduce yourself and what is your role and what is your company busy with in the composite industry?
Ilkay, thank you very much for the introduction and a very warm hello from myself as well to the whole composite community. Very happy to be here with you. My name, as introduced already, is Thomas Schwartz. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Gunnar. We are, Ilkay, you mentioned it very nicely, we are busy, really busy in the field of computerized cutting machines for composite and technical textile. Long story short, we try to assist you out there to cut your plies out of those very long, either dry fiber and or pre-preg mats to afterwards go into the stacking process to finally build composite parts. That's what we do all day long.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's move on then to Markus. Markus, you are joining us from the Netherlands, is that correct?
Yes, correct, from Amsterdam. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah,
my
please
name
introduce
is
yourself.
my name is Markus Kremers, CTO of Airborne, and we are a company from the Netherlands. Also have a production site in the UK. And what we do is composites, of course. We both do manufacturing of parts and automation. And the most important part of our business is supplying customers with digital automation solutions for composites to make it very easy and flexible to use automated manufacturing. So we use a lot of robotic cells and have a portfolio of building blocks that we can easily combine to make automated manufacturing lines.
Wonderful. Thanks, gentlemen, for your introduction. So let me then also welcome all our viewers here live on LinkedIn. I'm really thrilled to see many viewers on this live show. May I ask all viewers now to drop a comment in the chat box? We would like to see the spread of this live. From where are you tuning in? Are you in the composite industry? Are you using composites? And what is probably the process that you are using? This will be an interactive show. Markus and Thomas and myself, we are happy, very happy to answer all your questions and take up your comments on the topics that we will raise. This one will be quite technical today. I have to warn you up front because I have a lot of interesting questions prepared that interest myself actually. And we would like to talk with Thomas and Gunnar about, the technical side of the things, the handling side, the automation side of the thing. But of course, we will not lose our focus that this LinkedIn live episodes are for. We are promoting the JEC FORUM DACH in November on the 23rd and 24th in Frankfurt. This is a new format and everyone is invited to visit this format in Frankfurt. Excuse me, it will be a hybrid format, but you will also have the opportunity to be live on site. So please now write down your questions, your comments, where you're tuning in from, and of course, any questions you may have. So let me start with some operational questions, and I've prepared an extensive list here, and I would like to start. Let me give you an overview. So we will talk about operation and industry 4.0, sustainability, health and safety, productivity, and at the end, of course, about the JEC FORUM DACH. Let's dive into the operational side. So fibers. I would like to discuss with you guys the handling of the product of composites. I'm coming from the composite industry. We didn't use so much of carbon fibers in the past. We were more on the glass fiber side, on our weaving looms and handling and cutting these parts, stamping these parts. But we knew from the past in the textile industry that carbon fibers are extremely difficult to handle because of the static behavior. Do you have any comments on this, how to handle carbon fibers, or is that a problem of the past, or has it never been an issue for your automation processes? Maybe Thomas, you first?
Thank you, Ilkay. Yes, First of all, I would like to maybe to also deliver the information that when we talk about digital cutting, what Gunnar does in the center, of course, that whole automation parts. And when I say automation, I mean raw material handling onto the cutting machine. Then, of course, the center for process, the digital cutting process, as well as a lot of follow-up peripheral processes, including automated offloading, stacking, sorting of the parts. That's also pretty much in the center for scope these days. So that whole part, when it comes to protection of those machine processes against the carbon fiber material, of course, is a major deal. Ilkay, you mentioned it. It is a major deal, but it is solved these days. A lot of, any compartment, any electrical cabinet, any even PC control box that we, and when I say we, I definitely, I guess, speak also for Airborne, one of our close partners and our friends in the Netherlands. All those cupboards, they are sealed, not only sealed with standard rubber sealings as you would expect, but we work with a lot of overpressured cabinets from the inside. So long story short, number one, yes, it is a big deal. Number two, it is solved. I wouldn't say it's a problem of the past. It is an issue, but when you talk to the professional expert out there, we're definitely able to handle that issue.
Wonderful. Markus, what's your stance on carbon fibers or on fibers in general when handling? I mean, we are looking at health and safety in the operations. How can you make this easier?
Yes, it's an important topic, and not only the anti-static behavior. I think in general, composites are quite vulnerable materials. We do a lot of handling of composites with, for example, pick and place or tape laying. So it's very easy to damage the material, to create defects, and that's something to be avoided. So we spend a lot of effort in creating the right technologies to make sure that we handle the materials efficiently and quickly, but avoid that we introduce damage. And damage can easily occur. The fibers are still vulnerable. They're not consolidated or cured in an autoclave. Of course, then you have a very strong and stiff material. But before you do it, it's a vulnerable material. So that's a really important topic. On, let's say, cutting of fibers and loose fibers, as Thomas explained, you need to take care of the electrical equipment, of course, that it cannot be damaged by the loose fibers and create a shortcut in the electronic components. But in general, that's solved indeed, and that's not really a problem. So I think defects are more an attention point. So we also introduce quality systems to see if there are defects, and then try to correct for them, or at least know that there's a defect so that you can take the material out early.
Okay, wonderful. So we got the first comments here coming in. Thank you so much, Jens Peter, for coming in from Dresden. Dresden, gentlemen, is one of our hubs, composite hubs in Germany, as you may well know. So I will be in Dresden on the 3rd of December and also visit Dr. Heber from Leichtbauzentrum Sachsen. So then we got Professor Gerald Grübler, GG. Is that Gerald Grübler or is that a city? Maybe you can detail that. So Sabrina says, hi all, I've been working with the composites since last month. Welcome, Sabrina, to our wonderful industry. And I'm really delighted to see a lady in the composite industry, because this is one of my critics, self-critics on the composite industry. We need more ladies more female engineers in this industry. So everything she says is new for my development. Indeed, I will participate in a lot of forums to improve my skills. So this is a great show. Also, Sabrina, we had already 2 other lives, and we have a community here called Composites Launch. It's mainly for the German-speaking community. However, we have from time to time English content, so please have a look if you find something that will develop yourself. Then Jens Peter is referring us to a yacht manufacturer. Wonderful, Jens Peter. And Vishai says, I'm a master student from University of Lawrence, specializing in the field of polymers and composites. Here we go. This is wonderful to have our industry together. So let's dive a bit into the digitalization part of your business. Digitalization, I had a very interesting LinkedIn Live with Europe's #1 sales trainer. And the sales trainer, basically, he was complaining about the pandemic when all his in-person meetings, presence trainings were canceled. So he started immediately, to jump on a digital sales process design and is starting to, offering everything on digital channels. So I had him on a live and I was talking about digitalization in the small and medium-sized enterprises. And I've given him some of, or the most popular objections against digitalization. One was, for example, it is very labor and skill intensive and it costs lots of money. And I would like to discuss with you guys, maybe with Markus first, how do you handle these changes? How do you make this easier and less capex intensive for anyone that believes digitalization, automation is very costly and requires a lot of skills?
Yeah, it's a good topic. So let's say digitalization in the broader sense is an important topic. Of course, there's a lot of potential to make manufacturing more efficient and also therefore have less waste and make composites more sustainable. So what we try to do is use digitalization to actually make manufacturing very easy. So we not only want to automate the production and take out the manual labor, but we also want to automate basically the engineering effort to create the programs for the robots and all the instructions and processes settings. So what we are making is software that creates all the robot programs on the fly. So if there's a new design, you can put it into the machine, and then the algorithm will automatically create the program so that the machine can run. So that makes it very flexible and easy to use. And I think in many factories, especially also composite factories, they are a bit static. So there are a lot of activities going on. You need to have the material in the freezer, cut it, you kit it, laminate it, and then put it in the autoclave and then machine it. So and many composite companies have a high mix of products. So it's difficult to plan a factory, and therefore many factories are becoming quite static to make sure that everything goes okay. So what we try to do is use digital automation to enable the dynamic factory, a factory that can follow the changes in products, in needs, in output, in planning, and that can adapt. So I think there's a level of digitalization in the machine and a level of digitalization on factory level. I think it's very important that these two are connected.
Yeah. So let me then carry on this question. First of all, to the community, what do you think about digitalization in the factory? Is your factory already working with Industry 4.0 or are you considering working with it? Please tell us in the comments. Let us know how you think digitalization will come into the factories of the future, or is it already state of the art? And let me ask Thomas. Thomas, so you are a machine builder as such, besides the digitalization connection. Is it available plug and play machines at all? Do you make it easy for the users to start with your operations?
Very much, very much. It's a key point. You want to build machines that are first. I mean, Markus mentioned that in multiple sentences in his first and second answer that he gave in a very good way. First of all, Markus talked about hardware modules. I think that's one key. If you don't work everything custom made, but you have modules that you can put together and make it available to the industry, that makes the whole implementation much easier. That's one part of the answer that you asked, right? So it's not kind of not really plug and play, but it's kind of the thought goes a little bit in the direction when it comes to hardware. Work with modules, put them together in a smart way, and make it available to start up very simple. Number one, and number two, that's kind of the roof or the circle all around it. That's the software. That's connection interfaces. And that's of course digitalization. And I think it would be a little bit boring maybe to say that's an innovation these days. I mean, digitalization in a very basic format has been around for ages already. Every machine has a piece of software, and if you connect that and get it up to run and have an interface for the human to let it operate, that's the very simple first part of digitalization. Get the interaction between the human and the machine going in an easy way. That was very difficult maybe 20 years ago when you have a lot of programming. I refer back to Markus again. These days, you have companies like that out, like Airborne out there. It's all based on algorithm. The operator itself, once you have the hardware installed, just pretty much clicks a button, shows the piece maybe into the camera, and the whole thing starts to run automatically. We think in a very similar way, or digitalization process wants and is very easy to use, very simple. So the human interaction is a key that needs to be fast and simple and reliable. And that's the way where the industry goes, also for a machine manufacturer out there, right? The customer is in the center. Markus again mentioned that very, very well. We have highly complex manufacturing processes out there, a lot of material mixes, design mixes. So we need to be able to adapt to the customer and his needs very, very easily, very fast, very cost effective. That's the key out there to answer all those market questions as a machine and software manufacturer.
Yeah, wonderful, Thomas. Thanks for your exploration here. So let's move then to the next point. Let's leave Industry 4.0 for a moment and let's walk into sustainability. On our flag as the composite industry, we are saying we promote lightweight technologies. We enable aircrafts to fly faster, longer, wider ranges. We want CO2 footprint to decrease. Now, critics say that, well, you may do that with a lightweight part, but if you produce that lightweight part and you are, emitting CO2 in the production, then it may not be as, climate neutral as it appears. So my question to you both is sustainability one of your priorities? If so, in what ways? For example, the power usage, waste reduction, things like that come to my mind. Maybe Markus first?
Yeah, no, sustainability is very important, I think, for everybody, and should be even more important in my view. So composites are great. It's lightweight, it's durable, so the lifetime of a composite part is very long. So those are all very good things to make a product sustainable. I think if you look, and we did that analysis in let's say, if you look to the whole manufacturing chain and where you lose, let's say, CO2 emissions by consuming energy, it's in making the materials, of course. For example, carbon fiber has more embedded CO2 than for example, glass fiber. So you need to be careful where you use the carbon fiber. And in the consolidation or curing, if you have an autoclave or press, you need to heat up the material. That's where it's energy intensive. So we are in between. We take the material, we handle it, we create a laminate, cutting like Gunnar is doing. We integrate those cutters and then we create a laminate, and then it goes to the autoclave. So we're not building autoclaves. So our part is not so energy intensive. It's quite low, but very important. We focus on reducing the waste. So every % that we can take out of material waste is very important. There's a very high impact on CO2 emission reduction. And we did the calculation that with our system, so you do cutting, for example, with a Gunnar table, and we do automated kitting. That creates the opportunity to create more efficient nesting. So that means that you have less waste during the cutting, and that reduction in CO2 emission is very high. And if you even translate it into value, there's CO2 emissions have a certain value. It's easy to make a business case that you can invest in advanced machines. Like Gunnar, we are making and get a business case only on the reduction of CO2 emissions from the waste. So our biggest focus is reduction of waste in materials.
Wonderful. Thomas, any additions from your side regarding sustainability? Anything that comes up to your mind?
I hope everybody understood what Markus just said. I want to double underline that. Waste reduction is a super big deal. It's our core business. We talk about 25 to 30% potential waste reduction compared to kind of old school material handling. So it's a super big deal. We talk about huge numbers, right? CO2, but let's be honest, also cash-wise, which has a positive impact on companies again. On the smaller scale, when it comes to machine building, Gunnar-wise or hardware, it's also a big deal. We were able to reduce energy consumption and footprint, for example, compared to 10 years ago, about 40%. So the machine gets much smaller footprint-wise, which uses less factory space overall. And of course, the energy consumption these days of what the machine is using is also a big deal. But again, listen what Markus said, check out our websites, Airborne and Gunnar, see what we are doing. That's a super big deal. It changes the industry and the way material is used. Big deal.
That's wonderful. So waste reduction in practical, this means, like Markus said, the nesting, for example. So you got software that takes the shapes and the parts, draws it on the material. Say the material is 1 meter wide, and it nests basically the optimum geometry along each line. Is that correct?
Precisely. Yeah.
Okay. And by that you are reducing really, and you move the parts really close to each other, that you even have very, very small remainders. Yeah.
Absolutely. And not only that, but what also Markus mentioned, that it's about smart manufacturing, smart processes. So you work together very closely with the overall production planning. So the goal is, if we cut something today and maybe something else happens in the planning, that would be the very same material, but for a different project. But it could be cut maybe on the same day with the same material. We have software and hardware in place. So we nest it all together on the very same square meter of carbon fiber material, cut it at the very same time, but afterwards also separate it again. So we know some parts are related to project number 1 and some parts are related to project number 2. So not only are we able, hardware and software wise, to optimize the waste, but also follow the complete new quality regulations to really keep the parts separated from each other. So it's an overall system that we are offering. That's also, of course, capable in the very same way to Airborne. I'm talking the same language here. So we really cover the whole process. And that's a big deal. It's a very nice process.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. So you run basically several projects at the same time while cutting, yeah?
Absolutely. In the earlier days of nesting, you could actually, combine parts closer to each other. That was nesting like 10, 15 years ago. Today, we do much more. We are really linked with ERP systems. So we read what's happening the next 10, 20 days, if possible. That's up to the customer. And we know what material is on now. We know what material comes later in the day. And we nest over multiple hours or days, whatever the customer wants together. So we can even save more material at the moment of happening, right?
Yeah, this is really energy saving.
Energy and especially again raw material and CO2. That's the biggest deal, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So Thomas, you have a tight schedule today. You will be leaving within, I think, the next 10 minutes. So let me continue with yourself on the next issue or the next matter, that is health and safety. So we know fibers can be sometimes difficult in an environment. We're talking fibrous dust in a composite manufacturing, for example. So is there any issue, or if there is an issue, what is the solution from your operational point of view? How are cutting machines these days handle the issue of fiber dust for a clean environment?
It's probably not the biggest concern. It is an issue. If you work with fibers, there is a potential that you generate dust. But in our way of cutting and material handling, as we work with very, very tiny blades, it's all mechanical, so there is no kind of water or laser or any other substrate involved. So it's mechanical cutting, and the way we cut the material, there is a very low potential of having actually a fiber released into the air. Number 2, all the material is handled during the cutting on a vacuum bed. So once you cut it, there is actually an airflow down into the machine itself with the cutting underlay that also works as a filter. So overall, the potential risk is already super low. Number 2, if we actually, and that's always project-wise, if we work together with a customer that really works with dry fibers, which are very loose, with the potential of having kind of pollution out there in the air. There is definitely more than a potential. It's a reality that machines are installed in a more clean room environment where you actually do air filtering and you work with masks. So, it's nothing new. It's something that has been out there for a couple of years already. It's always project-based. It's all related to the material and the customer needs, but there is definitely a solution out there to handle materials like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I worked in a company myself where we had air suction systems, filtering systems, so you can easily work with this. And the fiber release is more in the textile production rather than in the handling and the manipulation
Correct.
of the materials, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move to the next one then. I guess, Thomas, you've answered this question nicely also for Airborne's interest, of course, and the composite industry. Productivity. So Airborne, as I see, Markus, very much into, automation industry. Let me talk about robots. Is there anything coming up in the future? Do you use already robots? In which markets are robots used in the composite industry?
Yeah, we use actually, I think all of our machines use robots. So we created a portfolio of building blocks, of modules, like Thomas also mentioned, based on robots. Robots are efficient, also cost efficient, I think, and very easy to use. So robotics is very important. The next thing for us is to create closed loop robotics. Typically, robots are open loop, so you say, I want to have this task being done, and then the robot does it. And very important in composites is accuracy of placement, for example, and be able to handle defects, like I mentioned earlier. So the next thing is, I think, closed loop robotics, that you have vision and really can influence the behavior of the robotic on the fly. We already have it in machines that we're building for customers, and it's an important development track in our roadmap. The other part is a more collaborative robots, so cobots they're called. It's typically smaller robots that are safe to work together with humans. And if you have an industrial robot, we use KUKA robots, for example, but you also have ABB and Fanuc, of course. You always need to put a fence around it. And then the question is, how do you get the material in and out? And maybe there are tasks that the human can do better. So then collaborative robots become important. They are typically smaller, so also have a smaller payload and a smaller reach. So you have to think of how to use them clever. And we're also considering to have a combination of big industrial robots and smaller cobots to really use the right technology on the right place.
So it really appears that robots and cobots have already taken inroads in the manufacturing process. So let me take Thomas also on the picture once again. Wonderful. So dear community, just to recap this, we've talked about the operational side, the health and safety side, the sustainability side, and now let's we've moved to productivity and the use of robots. If you have tuned in at a later stage to this LinkedIn Live will be available as a broadcast on my channel just after we have finished. So as the last point, I would like to, of course, come back to our main intention, and that is the JEC FORUM DACH. So let's talk about JEC FORUM DACH. Markus and Thomas, you are sponsors of JEC FORUM DACH. Just is that true? Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, both of you are sponsors. So thanks for sponsoring this, because it is a very first edition of this new format of this new forum. Thomas, starting with you, what was your prompt to say, okay, let me, as Gunnar, support this new format in the DACH region? What was the immediate thought you had with sponsoring it?
Okay, do you allow me to just jump back to the previous question? I just want to underline that again. Automation super big deal.
Sure.
What
Go on.
Markus mentioned, I just want to underline it again. Cobot, robot, collaboration with machines and everything. If anybody is interested, check out Gunnar LinkedIn channel or also Airborne. There is so much video material out there. Check it out. It's a reality. It's not the future. It's happening right now. It happened the last couple of months. It's happening right now. There will be more to come in specifically this direction. And it's a very good bridge to start about the JEC DACH, because not only is it very important these days to sit together and talk, and therefore it doesn't matter in front of a camera or live, but hey, it's live and it's happening again. So what better way to get together with our friends from Airborne or you, Ilkay, or with potential clients out there, specifically in the DACH region, than go to Frankfurt and sit together on a table, listen to the customer needs, present what we can do, and Ilkay, to answer your question, why are we not only there as an exhibitor, but also as a sponsor? The DACH region, when it comes to composite, from my point of view, maybe beside the US, but especially the DACH region, it's a very interesting melting pot. It's a hotspot. There is a lot of companies settled here that for years and years already work with composite, took major development steps on many different fields, from OEM till tier 2, 3 manufacturer. There is so much happening in regards to composite. So for Gunnar, it was a no-brainer when JEC decided to make something very specifically for the DACH region. We said we're in. We want to be there in a larger scale, because that's where we want to be and talk to our friends or partners and our potential customers and leads.
So I'm seeing now our leader, Eric Pierjean, has joined our discussion. Thanks for joining in, Eric from France. So he's the leader, and he's actually pushing this in the DACH region, this new format. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go then on to Markus. Markus, Airborne, I mean, a company as big as yours. Of course, you will support these formats, but is there a special reason for you that you would underline why you are entering and taking up on this new idea?
Yeah, I think I like the setup. It's the first time, so I'm very curious how it will work and let's say how the format will run out. I think it's interesting to really talk to business people, of course. The business meeting concept, I think, is very good to have a focused audience where you can have high quality conversations. I think that's good. So our markets we focus on aerospace and automotive, and especially in automotive, we really see a surge in requests for automation and composites. The use of composites is very important. Much has to do with electrification of automotive, so battery structures, but also making the vehicle lighter. New components are coming into the structure. Basically, the whole structure of a car is being reinvented. So there's a lot of opportunities for new materials. And we also see that interest, and a lot of interest is coming from the DACH region. So for us, that's important to be there and talk to customers and explain what we can do. In both aerospace and automotive industries as a primary focus. And a lot of, I think, very exciting activities going on with the whole sustainability revolution and really rethinking of platforms. Also in aerospace, you see urban air mobility coming up. So let's say smaller vehicles, smaller airplanes, electrically driven, sometimes hydrogen, and that needs new automation concepts as well. And that's why we like to participate in the DACH forum and talk directly to customers and understand what they need.
Yeah, Eric says two very important companies that participate. Yes, I see that also. And just for clarification, Markus, I've checked your Airborne website, and you seem to have more locations. Do you have locations also in the DACH area? You are a Dutch factory or Dutch company. Is that is that correct?
Yeah, we are headquartered in the Netherlands and also have a site in the UK. Mm-hmm. We have now a German colleague working from Stuttgart, so that's our first step into the DACH region. Magnus Olofsson, who also will be in the JEC DACH in Frankfurt. So, of course, Germany is very important for us as a market. So we plan to do more. We're not really planning to set up a new factory because the Netherlands is actually quite close, so that works quite well.
Yes.
And in our factories, we do two things. We make machines, but we also can run production. So we are flexible business model. That means that customers can ask us to make a machine, and we're happy to supply that. But sometimes in the ramp up of a project, they prefer us to do the manufacturing. So then we use our factory. It's a qualified factory. We can run the production and then hand over the machines later. So that creates some flexibility.
So a LinkedIn user says, Eric Pierre-Jean, fully agreed. Great discussion potential at the JEC DACH Forum. I will check later who that LinkedIn user is. Probably he has...
That was actually me.
Oh, that's you. Okay.
that was my answer to Eric, but obviously my name is not displayed. Yeah.
The reason for that is there is some setting that we can run later on. Okay. Wonderful. Thanks, Thomas, for commenting this. Wonderful. So is a Dutch company being, however, involved in a purely DACH format makes sense, because this DACH format is not only for German, Austria, and Swiss companies. It is, of course, for any company in the world that has an interest in the DACH region. So, and as you say, Netherlands is very close to Germany. Absolute valid legitimation here. And without Airborne, this industry would have anyway a lack of a very high role player in the market. So thanks for attending this. Yeah, Thomas, Swiss company. You are in the German-speaking Schweiz or in the Dutch or in the German-speaking Schweiz? I mean, for me, it doesn't care. I actually heard the other day that besides German, you speak the Swiss German and Italian, French, and there is a small minority that speaks even a Roman language.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. This I learned only last week from one of my clients. Very interesting.
Yeah, that's true. We have four official languages in Switzerland. Obviously, I regret I don't speak all of them. Would be interesting though, right? But no, that's correct. Gunnar is located in the three-country region of Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. So right at the Lake of Constance, very close to all those countries. And of course, we also offer multiple locations on the globe, but Switzerland is the headquarters and also our development and production center where a lot of the action happens.
Yeah. So I understand also from my dealings with my Swiss customers that things in Switzerland are easing up. The lowdown is coming. You can already meet now in restaurants, and the regular life comes back. How about your team? So you will have a large team at JEC Forum DACH. Is it a large team or a mid-size, small team? How do you intend to participate? And what do the people say about it? Are they okay already in meeting in person?
First of all, we're going to be the 3 or 4 of us. It's open right now, but so it's a smaller crew. But I think it's okay for a venue like the JEC DACH to be there with the 3 or 4 of us. That's going to be all right. People are definitely okay. I mean, obviously, first of all of us are vaccinated, so it's officially possible to meet in person. And because there are smaller meetings happening face to face. It's definitely okay. We are all looking forward to that. I wouldn't say we are super desperate. That's maybe a bit too much, but it's definitely a very, very positive spirit. We're all very customer orientated. So for us, it's super encouraging to be back on the road, to meet clients in person. It's always at some point after talking a couple of times during video, it's just much better to feel the pulse, you know what I mean, to talk, to look each other in the eye, to discuss problems on the table. It's much more efficient and better at some point than always do it over camera. So we are looking very much forward to the JEC DACH menu, to meet people in person. It's very encouraging. Absolutely.
And what does your team say, Markus? Are they okay with it?
Yeah, they're very much okay. So Magnus, our German colleague, and myself will be there.
Okay.
I have also the pleasure to have a presentation where I can explain a little bit about what we do with fast and efficient manufacturing. So that's very good. And personally, I like to also see old friends and people I know from earlier projects or that I speak to every week by phone. And now we can speak in person. So I think it's very important to build trust in the relation and to get to know each other better and not only talk just about let's say technical stuff and business, but understand each other better. So I'm really looking forward to it. And there are people that have been speaking now for 2 years on camera. I hopefully will see them live now in Frankfurt.
Very much.
Thomas, I remember on the last exhibition that was named in a different way. We had a nice chat on your booth. I remember that nicely. But what I saw is you had a huge machine there operating actually from time to time. Do you intend to move a machine like that there, or is it not the right format for it?
Yeah, that's precisely true. We're not going to move a machine to Frankfurt. For us, Frankfurt is more like a personal, small business to business meeting, like we had the pleasure to do the virtual JEC shows in the last two time, like speed dating, but in life we're looking very much forward to a lot of personal contacts. But I think that specific venue would be overwhelmed if we really would move a machine there and all the space that would be needed. So that can be very good covered with digital channels this time. That will work well. That's going to be very different for the real JEC show that's going to happen in spring. Fingers crossed that it happens. There, of course, it's a very different playground. It's going to be much bigger with a larger booth and definitely live machines running. Looking forward to that as well.
So before you leave us, Thomas, my final question to you is, and then you are done for today because your tight schedule waits. Anything particular or innovative that you will be showing on this forum?
I already mentioned it a little bit during my talking about automation. Automation is a really big deal, and maybe automation not only about robotics, but that overall circle when it comes to raw material handling, cutting, offloading, sorting, packaging, that overall scope that we have today as a machine manufacturer. This will be something that will be a lot. There will be a lot of discussion potential about that. So I would call it like overall process coverage and automation. So that's the big deal for us, where we are gonna do a lot of talking at the next two shows in the DACH region.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for joining, Thomas. So I will leave you for now. And
Ilkay and Markus, it was my pleasure to be here today, and thanks again to the crowd. Hope to talk to a lot of you soon in Frankfurt.
See you in Frankfurt. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you,
See you in
Thomas.
Frankfurt.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you.
So, Markus, then let's move together. What is my interest also is now you're being from the Netherlands, and probably let's look over the DACH region, over to our neighbors. If you compare Netherlands, for example, with the DACH region, or take any country in the DACH region, the market of composites, what would be similarities that you are seeing, and what are differences? Give us an overview, because this is the opportunity to talk a bit about the markets.
It's an interesting question. So to be honest, I think 80-90% of our customers are outside the Netherlands. The Netherlands is nice, but it's a smaller country, and most of our customers are in aerospace and automotive, or also consumer products, and that's outside the Netherlands. So we're very much used to work with companies abroad. And the DACH region is interesting. There are, of course, some differences. We in the Netherlands think we're maybe a bit more flexible, and I think. But I think what I like in the DACH region is very much focus on manufacturing. So in the Netherlands, we don't have a tradition really about manufacturing. So factories, but also automation is very, very strong in the DACH region. So for us, it's also important to be there, because there's also quite a lot of competition for us. We have many companies from the DACH region that are our partners, and sometimes competition. So Yeah, for us that's really the strong point, I think, of Germany and Switzerland and Austria. A lot of expertise in manufacturing, and of course also in composites, and that's what we like, and that's why we like to be there and be involved.
Yeah. Is the DACH region your major export? Well, if you can say export, I mean, we are in the European Union, but let's say outside your domestic market, is that the main outside market?
No, yeah, we do projects. So if in certain year, yeah, we sell more machines to the DACH region, it's the biggest market. Next year it will be different. So for us, we see Europe as one market.
Yeah.
Also because our customers are in Europe. If you think of an aerospace, many
Sure.
factories are in multiple countries. So yeah, Europe is our market, and we're now also expanding to North America, and also looking a little bit into Asia. So I think next week is JEC Korea show where
Yeah,
we
Eric
also
just mentioned it. November will be great with JEC FORUM DACH, end of November, and JEC Korea next week in Seoul, South Korea. And I believe you are speaking there, right?
yeah. So I will not be there live, so that will be through the camera and let's say digital, and have presentation there as well. And Korea is also a great example of let's say really a manufacturing country. So those countries are very important for us. But to be honest, Europe is our core focus. So that's why also the JEC next year in Paris, of course, is very, very important. We also hope to bring a machine and show something of what we do. And maybe to explain a little bit what I will speaking about next week is really to use robotics and pick and place. So we use pick and place technology. Maybe that's good to explain. So many automation technologies are like fiber placement and tape laying. And that's efficient if you make large structures like a wing of an aircraft, for example. You can imagine you have length, so tape laying becomes very efficient. If you have medium-sized parts, then yeah, you have a lot of stop and go. And then pick and place, what we use, becomes more efficient. And what we now see is that automotive is really therefore also interesting because a car is not that big. So all the components are like maybe 1 meter, 2 meter. And that's actually very interesting for pick and place technologies, both in dry fiber, so combination with RTM, or thermoplastic. We see a big interest in thermoplastic composites, where we can use welding, for example. And of course, a pre-preg, although that tends to be a bit more expensive. So I think especially in thermoplastics with material like glass fiber and polypropylene, very cost efficient. And if you've done a very efficient manufacturing process where you can handle a lot of material in one robot cycle, then it's possible to create composite structures that are lighter but are cost competitive compared to aluminum. So I think there's really a breakthrough going to happen, and yeah, many of the larger automotive suppliers, so the molders that do compression molding or injection molding, they need composite structures, let's say continuous fiber laminates that they put in their molding machines, and that's where our automation comes in. So that's very exciting, and many of these big molders are, of course, also in the DACH region.
Wonderful. You see in the backdrop a wind rotors. Yeah, is
Yeah.
wind in the Netherlands? I guess yes, it is. In the North Sea, one of the trends for renewable
Yeah.
energies. And do you participate in the wind industry?
Wind energy is there are many offshore farms being built, so there's a high level of investment going on. For composites, automation of wind turbine blades is not easy. So we are also involved in several projects, not to make the full wind turbine blade, because I think that's still difficult to automate just
Yeah.
because of the scale.
Yeah.
But there are many add-ons on the wind turbine blade, elements that create a better aerodynamics on the wind turbine blade, or let's say beams or sniffers inside the blade. And there, yeah, we're working on defining clever automation solutions.
Yeah.
So people always think about the full blade, but there are many other components that you can think of in composites.
Of course, yeah. So Vishwajit, I hope I've pronounced it the right way. Thank you for your question. Is asking you, is Airborne currently involved in any injection thermoforming automated processes for the mentioned automotive applications?
Yeah, we are. So we there are two ways or three basically. Yeah, you have thermoforming, like mentioned by Vishwat. So a laminate, and then you heat it up and you form it in a press. Injection molding, and typically that can be combined these days. So the injection molding machine also is a press, so it forms the laminate and then it's overmolded. And the other route is more compression molding, so also using a press. Where you have, for example, LFT that flows around the laminate and creates, let's say, ribs or let's say local features. So both ways, injection molding or compression molding, we are involved with. We don't build these presses because there are many suppliers around that make great injection molding and compression molding presses. But the question is, how do we make the laminate that goes into the press? And that's where we are involved to create machines that can do this. That's actually another advantage of working with robots. The robot can then also transfer the laminate directly into the press or into the oven for heating. So the integration into a factory is also much easier if you work with robotics. So yes, the answer is yes, we are involved in several projects around this.
Wonderful. Okay. Good. So we have covered a lot of grounds. Markus, thank you so much for your openness and for your kindness to explain everything to our community. I have now displayed a banner down there, www.jec-dach.events. This is where you can register for this format. You need to pre-register, of course, because of the regulations we are having. So please visit this website and see the conditions that enable you to take part at the JEC Forum DACH in November 23rd and 24th. I will be definitely also there and meet you guys. Yeah, other than that, is there anything, Markus, or what is your call to action for this industry? If you have one wish, one call, what would it be?
First of all, I have to come to Frankfurt, of course. It's a great opportunity, but that's obvious. I think the other is what we talked in the beginning. Let's think about making a factory flexible and dynamic. I think there's a lot of opportunity that's sometimes not seen. So let's talk about it and make flexible factories. I think that will be my call to action. And of course, we can help you with this.
Okay, wonderful. So my call to action, of course, is come also to Frankfurt. And also join our Composites launch. This is a LinkedIn group. We are an independent group of composite fanatics, let's say, that would like to move the composites needle in the DACH region. So it's a German-speaking one, although we've spoken in English today. And we will continue also to bring content in English, of course. So join our format here on LinkedIn. It was great talking to you, Markus, and great talking to Thomas, of course. Maybe he will watch this in the replay once again. Thanks for all the viewers being here live. Thanks for your questions. Also, once again, greetings to Eric Pierjean, who says you can replay our business talks like this one and many podcasts on the webinars on the JEC TV. I also recommend that, of course. So on the 4th of November, I will be one more time in this episodes live with JEC Forum DACH this way, and have really a surprise for you. This time there will be minimum 5 participants on the screen. And those 5 participants will talk and pitch their ideas. So stay tuned, write down 4th of November. It will be later in the afternoon this time, and hope to see you there once again. Thank you so much for attending our live, and I will now show the outro and say goodbye to everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ilka.
IMBEO Passionate B2B Partnerships. Das LinkedIn Live-Videocast-Format mit Praxiswissen für Gründer, Unternehmer, Geschäftsführer und Führungskräfte aus dem Mittelstand rund um Innovation, Selbstführung, Leadership, internationales B2Business Development und nachhaltigem Netzwerken mit und auf LinkedIn. Präsentiert von deinem Host Ilkay Özkesaulu aus Bayreuth.